All right, Amen-Hotep. Want to welcome everyone to our Divine Words Wednesdays, and you are hanging out with the Seshu Ma'ani Medu Necher. All right. All right, Amen-Hotep, and like I said, want to welcome everyone to. That was the echo I was talking about. All right, so again, Amen-Hotep, and today is Wednesday, so you are hanging out with the Seshu Ma'ani Medu Necher for our Divine Words Wednesday. And our Divine Words Wednesdays, we like to go over certain topics and share information in a very short, brief teaching moment. All right, so this is what we have been doing for quite a while. I think since April, we started doing this April. So we have a whole series of hangouts in our archive. And one thing we've been emphasizing from the very beginning is Tep Hesep, which is the indigenous phrase for the correct method, because we like to emphasize correct methodology in everything that we do. And specifically with what we're doing here with the language of Rani Kemet. So there is a correct method in transliterating and translating the ancient Egyptian language. So we've been emphasizing that for several hangouts, I think starting from back in in April. So this is what we do on Wednesdays. And I like to share my screen so we can get started here. Give me 1 second here. I have so many windows open. Okay, Google has changed up on me. Okay. See, this is what happens when they want to switch up stuff on you. And they have 2 separate tabs for sharing. Okay, did not know that. All right, so now I have to find what I'm looking for.
You're probably looking for the slide.
Yes, I am. Yes, and I do not see it. So 1 second. Yeah, they definitely pulled a number on me. That's how you do. You just blame everybody else. Okay, so let me know when you can see that.
Too, we can see it from here.
All right, and just double check to make sure it's seen on YouTube as well.
All right. Yes, showing on YouTube as well. It's not on full screen though.
Okay, it should be full screen now.
It's over here, and I'll just double check again on YouTube. There's a low delay, so.
Alrighty.
Yeah. Yep, we're good to go.
All right, so let's try this again. So welcome, Amen-Hotep. All right, you're hanging out with the Seshu Ma'ani Medu Necher. This is our Divine Words Wednesday, and today is Wednesday. So we're going to jump straight into it. Again, our Divine Words Wednesdays, we've been doing this since around April, and we have a series of videos in our archives, and we've been using Wednesdays to emphasize methodology, and it's specifically methodology or the methods, the correct methods on how to transliterate and translate Seshu Medu Necher. But before we begin, we've also adopted as a practice a recitation of the offering formula. So we'll do that now, and I'll just pass the mic over to Sonnet Tonica.
All right, Dua. So what you're seeing on your screen is the offering formula, and there's 3 parts to it. It's the same thing written in 3 parts. The top uppermost part, that's written in Seshu Medu Necher, which is known also as hieroglyphs or hieroglyphics. And then the middle part, that is the transliteration. And then the bottom part, that is the translation. And so what I'm going to do is recite the offering formula. And as you all know, the pronunciation is not an accurate pronunciation, but is what is known as Egyptology speak, and is what we use to get by while reading um, the Medu Neter. So I'll go ahead and read. And there's a part that is left blank. And what we do here is we like to insert the name of the ancestors, which we use one of the generic names, which is Aku. And so you can insert, if you're reciting along, you can insert a name of anybody that you prefer or know that has passed along. So I'll just go ahead and recite, and you can recite along with me. So Hotep Dinasu, Wesir Neb Jadu, Necha A Neb Abju, DF Beret Kheru, T Henket Ka Apet Chesmen Khet. Khet nebet neferet webet ankhet necheim. In kani imachu achu maakeru. And what it's saying is an offering which the king gives Osiris, Lord of Jadu, great God, Lord of Abydos, so that he may give verbal offerings in bread, beer, ox, fowl, alabaster, linen, everything good and pure on which a god lives, for the car of the revered one, the ancestors, justified. So I'll just go ahead and pass the microphone back to Uja.
All right, Iker, excellent. Yeah, and that's how we would like to begin all of our sessions, to set the tone. And again, I always like to acknowledge the fact that Dr. Rakete Amen does that for her classes and the beginnings of her sessions wherever she has a gathering, and it seems appropriate. So we've adopted that as well. All right, so the Seshu Mani Medu Neter, just to remind everyone who we are. Basically, the Seshu Mani Medu Neter, we are a membership of like-minded individuals with aspirations of being true or loyal scribes of divine words, hence Medu Neter. We embrace the importance of learning the languages of Kemet, and that's correct, languages, plural, of Kemet, as a means to enter the world of ancient Kemet and have a meeting of the minds with the illustrious civilization, society, culture, and people responsible for contributing so much to the world, whether it's realized or not. All right. That's the gist of who we are. You can find out more about who we are as a Seshu Mani Medu Neter by going to the website, meduneter.com. All right. And we'll make sure we have the links inside of the description box. Now, our purpose, overall purpose, is a summary of our purpose as well. So our purpose is to emphasize correct method, and we've been doing that, as I said, and throughout this series of Divine Words Wednesday. Pretty much everything that we do, we emphasize correct method. All right. So we emphasize correct method by demonstrating examples of how Sesh Medu Neter, also known as the hieroglyphic script, is translated. In doing so, we also address 1, that the Sesh Medu Neter script has been deciphered, 2, the methods for doing so, and 3, we demonstrate that with time, discipline, and patience, anyone can do it. So basically, our purpose has been to emphasize correct method, but in exercising our purpose and actually executing it, all along we've been showing that the Sesh Medu Neter, or the hieroglyphic script, has been deciphered. So this recent upsurge of a few people saying that the language hasn't been deciphered, we've been deciphering, we've been dealing with the language long before they started to say that in recent times. So if you ever want to see the language being deciphered, or us, translating, just visit our archives and pass the word, pass the links around. And we challenge anyone to, if they have any questions, to present the questions. If anybody has corrections, present the corrections. Or if you just want to chime in a dialogue or offer some research, by all means, we challenge everyone to bring that to the table. All right, as well. But we've been doing this for quite a while. All right. So, and tonight will be no different. So the translation method. There are 4 main steps to the transliteration and translation method. Step 1 is to determine the direction in which the signs are to be read. All right. The signs can be read in 4 directions. All right. Either rows or columns, and either left or right. So that's basically the gist of those 4 directions. Either they could be read in rows from left to right, or columns left to right, or in rows from right to left, or columns right to left. All right. There's no reading of the signs in 45-degree angles or in circular patterns and things like that. That has been alleged and claimed. All right. Those are false. Step 2 is to identify and document each individual sign. Now, this step 2 is here for those signs that you have not memorized. All right, because there's so many signs. There's approximately 7,000 signs in all from the start, the earliest attestation of the glyphs until when they were ceased being in use. I believe it was from 3320 BCE all the way up to 394 CE. Okay, so roughly 4,000 year period. And over that 4,000 year period, there's been accumulation of approximately 7,000 signs, with the most of them being contributed at a much later time period and within that range. So in step 2, identifying, documenting each sign, a lot of the signs you're gonna memorize. The more you practice, the more that you transliterate and translate text, you're gonna start memorizing these signs. So, but there's always a point in time where you may have to look up and identify and document each sign. All right. Step 3, group signs into words to be searched in dictionaries. Now, unlike English, where our words are separated by spaces, and we tend to take it for granted because we grow up and go to school, and we're taught how to read and write, and the spaces are there already. In Seshu Medu Neter, or the hieroglyphic script, there are no spaces, there are no punctuation marks. So the emphasis with Seshu Medu Neter is on patterns. So there's certain signs that are grouped together that form patterns that we call words. And the big help or biggest hint for us to determine when one word ends and one begins, and next one begins, is what's called determinatives. So step 3 involves the identification of patterns. So this is something that you will actually get used to as you put in the time and put into practice. You'll start to just recognize. So it's basically a step of pattern recognition. Also within step 3, the words that you don't know the meanings of, you will have to look them up. All right. But just like step 2, eventually, as you do this more and more often, you're going to automatically know what words mean. Just like in English, we've been speaking, most of us speak English all of our lives, but there are many times where we still have to use the dictionary. All right. We haven't memorized the meaning of every single word in the English language. So we have to refer to dictionaries. So this is no different. And then finally, step 4 is to come up with a sensible translation. So this is the final step. This is the step where you're taking the source meaning, or the meaning that's in the source language, and bringing it over in a sensible meaning in the target language. So for our case here, it will be coming from Rani Kemet into English. All right. Rani Kemet being the indigenous name of the spoken language of Kemet, where Seshu Medu Neter is the writing system. All right. So we have to emphasize that difference. All right. So those are the 4 steps. And this is the particular picture. Oh, I'm sorry. Let me introduce myself. My name is Wujau Meneb Eri Ma'at, and I go by Wujau. That's Wujau. A lot of people tend to mispronounce my name. But yeah, I'm cool with Wujau. But before we move further, everyone else on the panel, if you can unmute yourself and introduce yourself.
GK, Renee Antoine Jermaine, also known as Hushermouth on Google Plus. DNX, Uncle Josh Chanel.
Amen-Hotep. Let's welcome in peace. Thanks for tuning in. I hope you enjoyed the show and leave satisfied. Hotep.
Hotep, this is Tonika, and welcome.
ETM Hotel.
All right, I can't see who else is on. Was that it?
Yeah, that's it. We're all psyched up.
All right, so this is the picture that we're gonna work with for tonight. All right, this picture was posted in our Facebook group, Seshu Mani Metanetra Facebook group, by a brother in London. He's a person who lives in London. Oh, I'm not saying London. You know, I tend to call United Kingdom or the UK or Britain London. You know, us over here we just call everything London.
Yeah, that's terrible.
Yeah, we just say everything London. But the brother has posted a lot of pictures, a lot of good and very clear pictures from the British Museum over in London. Actually, I think 100+ pictures, you know, of different things. So this is one of the pictures that he posted in the Facebook group that we're going to work with this evening. And the brother's name, I believe, Tonika, you have a better way of pronouncing the brother's name. I want to definitely give the brother credit, and hopefully he's watching, will be watching the archives. What's the brother's name?
Yes. Yes. The brother's name is Senzanga Kona.
All
I
right.
think I'm saying.
All right. Yeah. So yeah, I want to give him credit for definitely posting the pictures, donating the pictures. We have a lot of pictures to work with now. You know, over 100 straight from the museum. All right. So this is a picture that we're going to work with, and on the left hand side is the full statue, and on the right hand side is the text that's blown up so you can see it a little better. So as you can see, there are 11 rows of text, I believe. Yeah, 11 rows of text. And this is what we're going to work with. Now, so we're going to walk through the 4 steps, and for time's sake, we won't be able to get through all 11 rows, but we're just going to emphasize the method and have a discussion about what we can cover in a reasonable amount of time. So remember, step 1 is to determine the direction in which the signs are to be read. Step 1 is a very simple step. And let me show the picture again. And if somebody on the panel can execute step 1 and also give the reasons why it is what it is.
Let's have to do what you said. Row 1. Row 1 is going to be read from right to left, horizontal. And the reason why I can determine that it's read from right to left, horizontal, is some of the items, the pictograms on there are facing toward the right.
Okay. Can you point out some? Just I got my cursor. You just point out some.
The first sign is then the soup plant is facing toward the right. The throne is facing toward the right. The seated man with the beard is facing toward the right. The hair on top of the water ripple is also facing toward the right. The quail chick is facing toward the right.
Okay.
The seated man with the beard is facing toward the right. And the standard is also facing toward the right. Look, yeah, facing toward the right.
Okay. All right. So I just want to show a couple of examples. So also to keep in mind for everyone that is willing to learn and in the process of learning, what helps, one of the big things that stick out that helps you are the birds, because the birds are easily seen as far as being directional glyphs. There are some glyphs that have no direction to them. And let me see, for example, the mouth. The mouth really has no direction. You don't know which way it's facing because it's pretty much forward facing glyph. So this is why we say the people or the birds kind of stick out and jump out at you. You can pretty much look through all 11 of these rows and see the different birds and how all of them are facing to the right. You see the seated deity or the seated man as well. But the birds is what stick out. All right, so that's a very good indication of which direction that they are facing. Okay, so that's step one. Step one is to identify the direction in which we read the signs. So they're facing to the right. We're going to read into them. So we're going to read into it. So it's from right to left. All right. So that covers step one. And remember, step two is to identify and document each individual sign. Now, with this step, by the time a person is ready to transliterate and translate any text, there's certain signs that you're going to have already memorized. And those are what's called the monoliteral glyphs. Those are glyphs that represent a single consonant, and they're 24 in number. And they're with the 25th being a double of the reed leaf. And let me see if I can point out a reed leaf on here. Yeah. Okay. You see how these reed leaves are together where my cursor is? Because it's just a doubling of the same sign. That's why you'll see or hear people say there's 24 individual glyphs, but they represent the 25 different consonants. All right. So those should be memorized by the time you sit down and make attempts to transliterate and translate. That's something that you would have learned and memorized and practiced already. So outside of those, there are other glyphs that you may not memorize. So this is where step two comes in, where you have to identify and document the glyphs. And in order to do that, you would use a sign list. And the standard sign list that everyone uses is a sign list created by Alan Gardner. Now, the sign list is simply just a way of categorizing the different glyphs. So basically what Gardner did was to take all of the glyphs that have a common theme. So for all of the birds, for example, he put them together under a category, and he labeled these categories A through Z. And then he has another category, double A, because he skipped J, the letter J. So A through Z and double A are these categories that these glyphs fall up under. So all of the birds will be in category G. All of the glyphs that deal with vegetation, from plants, trees, and things like that, would be under the category M, as in Mary. All of the human body parts would be in category D, as in dog. All right, so that's the purpose and the reason why those categories or that list is used, so we can identify the glyphs and be able to discuss it and be able to analyze them scientifically. So we'll be able to, so for example, instead of me trying to tell you about a bird, I can now give you the Gardner code for it, because each category has a letter, and then the glyphs within that category are in a sequential number. So G1, remember G would be for the birds, and then we're looking at the first glyph in that category. So G1 would be the vulture. All right. G43 would be the quail chick. G17 would be the owl. Like that. And these are glyphs that I'm naming that are the monoliterals. Vegetation, for example, the reed leaf I showed you, this is a double reed leaf, but the single reed leaf will be in category M, as in Mary, for all of the vegetation glyphs, and that would be M17. All right, so and so on and so forth. All right, so that will be step two, is to use the sign list to look up each and every glyph. Okay, now a lot of these you will already know, but the ones you don't know, that's what you will have to use in order to look them up. All right, so for the sake of step two, if someone on the panel can just identify any of the glyphs, just a few of them for time's sake, in row 1 or row 2, and then we can move on.
All right, I'm gonna start all the way at the top on the right-hand side. We have the Sioux plant. Like you said, that's in the M category. It's going to be Gartner code M23. Next to that, we have the conical loaf. And then next to that, we have the offering table. And underneath that, we have the raised bread loaf, which is Gartner code X1. To the left of that, we have the stool. That's Gartner code Q3. And then we have a I. It's going to be in the D category. That's D4. And below that, we have a throne, which is Gartner code O1. To the left of that, seated deity, that's Gartner code A40. To the left of that, we have the rabbit or hare. And underneath that, we have two water ripples. Those are Gartner code N35. To the left of that, we have, I think that's in the animal body parts. That gives us the transliteration NFR. I can't remember the Gartner code for that one. To the left of that, we have a quail chick. And then another seated deity. We have the Gartner code R8. That's the Netcher. Gives us the transliteration N capital TR. Behind that, we have a wooded column. And then we have front-facing face. Underneath that, we have a heart. And then we look these up in the sign list. And when you're doing this step, you want to try and gather all the information you can, the transliteration, the functioning of the sign, which could be a determinative, a logogram, or ideogram. So you want me to keep going?
No, that's fine. That's good.
Okay.
That's good. Excellent. Yeah, and I'm glad you pointed that out. This is basically a data collecting step, because what you're doing is, as you said, you have to collect the information about each glyph that you already don't know, from memory. And what you're collecting is the Gartner code, which you gave on some of them, and you're also want to document or collect how a particular glyph is transliterated. And then also, as you said, how it can function. Now, on that note, each and every glyph in Amen-Hotep can function in one of three different ways in a particular word that it's used in. And those three ways are either as an ideogram / logogram, or as a phonogram, or it may serve as a determinative. All right. Now, a lot of people that are going around under the belief that the Amen-Hotep has not been deciphered, for some reason, they fail to realize that the glyphs can function as phonograms. All right. The people who have that belief, they believe that the glyphs are only ideograms, and that's just false. They also function as phonograms. All right. And again, you can watch the archives to see us break that down further. All right. So that will conclude step 2. So, and of course, for time's sake, we won't be able to identify all of the glyphs that you see. All right. So now that moves us to step 3. Step 3 is to group the signs into words to be searched in dictionaries. Now, you only have to search those words that you don't already know. And the more you practice, the more you'll know, the more you'll have memorized. So as I said before, as you can see in Amen-Hotep, there are no spaces that will indicate where one word ends and another one begins. There's no commas. There's no periods for sentences and things like that. So you pretty much have to know, and this is something that you will gain by, with more experience, because this is about pattern recognition. Also, the more general determinatives that you memorize will also speed up that process for you. All right. So with step 3, maybe someone on the panel can point me out, with my cursor to identify certain words, and then I'll just point them out. Well, I'll just do that. I'll do this step here. So in step 3, like I said, you're doing pattern recognition, and like I said, you're gonna come away better off. The more words or more patterns that you recognize with words. So, for example, this beginning part of this first row is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. These 5 glyphs here are very, very common. So this is something that we refer to as a formula, or they would a lot of scholars may say formulaic text. So these 5 glyphs perform the phrase Hotep di Nasut. All right. And this is something that you'll recognize because you'll see it so many times. Now, sometimes you may see it with the mat and offering that's on top for the Hotep glyph, the T or the raised bread loaf, and the P or the matted stool. You'll see this is the word Hotep. This conical loaf is the word D, which means to give. And this sedge plant here is the word for king, is an abbreviated form of the word for king. Now, the way you see it here, sometimes you may see it slightly different, where this conical loaf may be on the other side of this Hotep, the word Hotep. So the word Hotep may be in the middle. And scribes tend to do that in certain eras of time for aesthetic purposes, to make it look nice and neat in these rectangle or squares that we call quadrats. All right. So that's 3 words that you see there. And then the next word is pretty common. These group of glyphs here. You have the I, the tall seated throne, and then the bearded individual. Together spells the word Wasir, or most people know as Osiris. And this is very common. So this is a pattern that you're going to see. The next word is Wenin, with the rabbit or hare and the 2 water ripples beneath it. This is a word. And then you have Neferu, and with the determinative here, letting you know that this is an epithet or a title of a particular individual, and it happens to be a common title of Wasir or Osiris. So it's Wasir Wenin Neferu. All right. And then another common phrase that you see is Necher Ah. The standard here is the word Necher, for, as most people translate, as God or deity. And then you have the wooded column, upright wooded column. Sometimes you see this wooded column horizontal as well. And mind you, on that note, some glyphs you will see both vertically and horizontally. And there are other glyphs that are restricted to just being vertical. Whether it's written in rows, like how you see in this statue, or whether it was written in columns, it will still be glyphs that would be vertical, and you won't see them horizontally. All right. So I like to point those out that where you will see them for both. So for example, this wooded column, you will see occasionally that this wooded column will be laying on its horizontally. So this is a phrase, Necher Ah, means the great deity or the great God or great divinity, as a phrase. So you'll see that's a common phrase. Let's see what else. Just point out some common phrases. Now, this phrase here, if you can see my cursor, hopefully, this glyph here is a glyph for the word sesh. All right. And it should be very familiar to all of us. But you'll see it. It's a very common sign. Wherever the word sesh is used, you'll pretty much see it. Now, in combination with these 3 glyphs in front of it, the sedge plant again, the raised bread loaf, and a water ripple, this forms a word nisut as well. Just like in front here, you have nisut, but this is a very abbreviated form with just the sedge by itself. And here you have a more fuller spelling of it. So these three form the same word, nesut. So now in reading this, you would say nesut sesh. But actually, this phrase here is in what's called honorific transposition. And what that is that in Sesh Medu Neter, in the writing system, the scribes gave honor to the words for king and deity, and then the deities themselves, by writing them in front of different phrases where these words are involved. So this is the phrase that means royal scribe. But normally, when you say it grammatically, it would be sesh nesu, which is nesu is an adjective describing what kind of scribe. So you're saying sesh nesu, which would be royal scribe. But in the writing system, when you see it written, you'll see nesut written before, out of honor. So we refer to that as honorific transposition. All right, let's see. I'll probably point out one more for time. Trying to point out something that's like commonly seen. Let's see. Okay, I'll do this one here. Where you see this cobra here, this hand, the cobra and hand together, and a lot of times you will see it together like this, is the word jed, and it means to say, to speak or to say, jed. And then you have this horned viper underneath of it, which is a suffix on this word. So all three of these will spell out the words he says, jed f. But I'm pointing out this common one because you'll see the cobra with the hand many times. All right. So what I'm doing is I'm just showing you that in step 3, pattern recognition, because for all intended purposes, you know, if you don't look at it this way and this is not what you practice, then what you'll look at when you're looking at this, and this is what happens to everyone when they first, you know, look at these things, you know, whether you're touring in a museum or you're over in Egypt or looking at pictures like we're doing right now, until you recognize patterns, what happens is you're looking at individual glyphs. So your mind is just seeing individual glyphs. And so it's not making any sense, you know, and you're not going to be able to get anywhere by seeing it this way. But like I said, the more you work with this, the more you're going to see patterns. And for example, if you want to do an exercise, take any English sentence, like look in a book and just grab any sentence in a book written in English, and then just rewrite it yourself or retype it yourself, but remove the spaces, take out the spaces, or have someone else do it for you, and then see if you could read it. And I guarantee you can still read that sentence. And the reason why is because you are already familiar with the English language, and you're already familiar with patterns of the alphabetical characters that's used for the English language. So you don't see that as individual characters. So if I say the word, the next step in the offering prayer. Now, if I say that and I spelled it out, I'm not looking at it as an individual T, the H, the E, the N. You know, my mind is picking up patterns. So I'm seeing the word I'm seeing the word next, I'm seeing the word step, etc., whether the spaces are there or not. So likewise, the more you become familiar with this text and this writing system, your mind will do, your mind will do the same thing. It's a natural human trait to recognize patterns. All right, cognitive trait, I should say. Okay, so anyway, that's step 3. Now, also with step 3, you'll be looking the words up in the dictionaries, the words that you don't know what their meanings are. So, for example, Hotep Dinasu, it's a common formula. You know, most people will pretty much know what that means. So what you would do is the words that you're not familiar with, you would look those up. All right. So I believe, Brother June, you may have some that you can share, and I'll just point it out, and you can give the page that is found on in the Vigus Dictionary and kind of explain a little bit about the Vigus Dictionary.
Yep. Important tool in this step 3 is grouping in we use a dictionary to help us with that. For convenience, we use the Mark Vigus dictionary because it's online, free, and electronic. But there are plenty of other dictionaries out there that you can use, such as Faulkner, Budge, or even what we discussed recently, the Waterbach. So yeah, grouping, like you said, these first 5 signs are something like a formula because we see it so often, and actually that whole phrase is in the Vigus dictionary on page 1202. So that's 1202. You'll see it as Hotep Dinasut. The next grouping is the next 3 signs. We have the I, which is D4. The what is that? The throne, which is O1, and then the seated deity A40. We have get the transliteration Wasir. So working with the Vigus, there are a couple ways you can search this, either by the Gardner codes, which is known as the Gardner string, where you'll just punch in the Gardner codes and search, or you can search by the transliteration. In this case will be WSIR. You will find the entry on page 63 for Wasir, or what they have in the dictionary is Osiris. Okay, but this is joined in with the next word. The next, oh no, okay. Yeah, the next grouping would be 1, 2, 3, 6. The 6, next 6 glyphs. So we know this as a epithet of Osiris or Wasir. So the transliteration on this would be WNN, and then NFR. I mean, what's that? I'm sorry, NFRW. Wenen Neferu. And then that's on page 404. Next 2 symbols will be the next grouping. We have Necher Aa, N capital TR, and the Gardner code on that is R8. The wooden column is transliterated A, capital A, Necher Aa. In the dictionary, you'll see it on page 1695. 1695 for great God.
Okay.
Yep.
I'm saying that's good. I for time's sake, that's good. And I just want to point out as well that when the fact that you were giving lowercase and uppercase, it's important to know, for the listeners to know, that one transliteration system that we use is called manual decodage, and it is case sensitive. And it was invented to prevent people from having to use the diacritic marks, because on keyboards and on digital media, especially typing emails and on social media, I should say, it's very hard and kind of tedious to change your keyboard settings to type in the diacritic spellings of different words. And those diacritic marks are those little small markings that you see around letters, such as a dot under H, or a curve under H, or a line under a D, a line under a T, etc. So manual decodage was created to make it case sensitive, to make those distinctions. So instead of a bread loaf being a lowercase t versus a tethering rope being an uppercase T, and there'll be a difference between a T and a ch, like in the word Necher. So you hear the brother June say N capital T R for the word Necher instead of NTR, and that makes a difference in the manual decodage transliteration system. All right, so these are just systems of transliteration, just how to encode the glyphs using the Latin script that we use for same script that we use for English. All right, so that's what transliterations are. So I just wanted to point that out, and that's what one of the benefits of using the Mark Vigus dictionary, because it too allows you to look up more precisely with the manual decodage transliteration system. All right. So now with that, so those are some examples of looking up the different words. So I'm going to go to the next slide where we're going to break down a couple of the rows themselves, starting with the first row. So here on the screen, we have the first row blown up, so you should be able to see it. And by the way, if you're watching live and it's a little blurry, you can click on the cogwheel right up under the video and raise the settings to 480 or 720, the video settings. All right, and that should work out good for you. So here's row 1 again, just reproduced. Here's the cropped out portion of row 1 as far as the picture. And then we have the transcription of the glyphs or reproduction of the glyphs using a software. We use JSesh. All right. So I recommend those who are taking the study serious to get that software app. Is free, and learn to use it. And if you need help, by all means, you can contact any one of us or suggest that we even have a hangout on it. And we've had a couple of hangouts explaining how to use it, as well as even to use the Mark Vigas dictionary. Matter of fact, it's a free 15-minute tutorial on the website, as well as on YouTube. All right, as far as using the Mark Vigas dictionary. But this is what you're looking at. So you're looking at the cropped out actual picture, the reproduction of the glyphs beneath it, and then the transliteration. So as the brother June was going through, you have, so these are clear to be able to see it. So you have these first glyphs here, Hotep Dinasu, Wasir, Winin, Neferu, and then Necher Ah. And then this is where he stopped here. So you see it stopped here in the picture, and it coincides with right here. And then you can continue on. But for time's sake, we provided the transliteration for the full row. Now, as a side note, in transliterations, when you see characters or consonants that are inside of the parentheses, what that usually means is that these are parts of the word, but it's not seen inside of the glyphs because of due to abbreviation or due to aesthetic reasons of the scribe. And we know that they're part of the word naturally because you'll see them elsewhere in different texts. All right, so it depends on the medium that this particular inscription is being carved on, painted on, and the type of text where the scribe may omit certain glyphs out of words. And it's pretty much an ancient way of what we still do today. We would abbreviate the word doctor. We don't spell out D-O-C-T-O-R. We would put D-R period, Mr. M-R period, Mrs. M-R-S period, etc. All right, street, S-T period. So a lot of times if you are writing a book and you're talking about a street and you mention the word street, most likely you'll spell it all the way out. But on an envelope, when you're going to mail something to somebody, most of the time you're going to use ST period, the abbreviated form. So remember, so it depends on what you're using it for, what the circumstances are. So likewise, in ancient times, it depended on the circumstances that the scribes were, engraving text on, whether they would use abbreviated forms or not, or omitted certain glyphs or not. All right. So, and over here, you see the sedge plant by itself. And then over here, you see it a more fuller spelling. All right. So this is a perfect example. We're all within the same row here. Okay. So we have the transliteration. So this Y here is in the word nisut because the N here is the word ni, which means belonging to. So nisut. And it would be, normally it would have 2 diagonal strokes beneath it. But like I said, this the way it's commonly spelled to have this rectangle or square quadrant look, that aesthetic feel. So we have Hotep Dinasu, Wasir, Winin Neferu, Necher Ah, Heri-Ib, Abju, Sesh, Nisut, as I said here, you have Nisut Sesh, but it's in the proper way that you would say it and understand it, it would be Sesh Nisut. Then you have Imira Perni here. And we're going to go over the translation later, but I just want to show you a little bit more detail of each row. So that's row 1. Here's row 2, blown up the same way. And then the glyphs are reproduced beneath it. All right, so let me point out a few of them. So here's like the diagonal strokes that I mentioned earlier that would normally be accompanying with the word Nisut. So you can see like here, a little bit of damage. You can see it better here where you have the reed leaf, min, glyph for the biliteral. And also a side note, when you hear us say monoliteral, earlier I said that there are glyphs that stand or represent a single consonant. So we refer to those as monoliteral or uniliteral. Mono and uni meaning one. Then there are glyphs, there are types of phonograms that are biliteral and triliteral. So this particular glyph here, which you see reproduced here, would be a biliteral phonogram, which means that it represents a sound, and bi meaning two. So it represents two sounds or two consonants. And this will be M and N. M as in Mary, N as in Nancy. So M and N. So this spells the word I-M-N. You can see this transliterated right here. I-M-N. Amen-Hotep. So this phrase here, along with this seated or kneeling man, will be the name Amen-Hotep. So you see Amen, and then we see the Hotep. And I'm going to go back to the first row real quick, just so you can see the same thing. So you see the Hotep sign. So this is Hotep Dinasu. So you see the word Hotep. So by the time you come down in row 2, you see the same sign. And I'm pointing this out because in a lot of text, you'll see repeat of words, repeat of glyphs and a repeat of words, just like an English paragraph. Remember, there's only 26 characters in the English alphabet, which is from the Latin script that we use to write English. And those characters have to be used, which are only 26 in number, to write the 1.2 million words that we have in the English language. So, of course, you're going to see a whole lot of the same characters. They're just in a different arrangement to spell out different words. All right. And words in phrases. Okay. So this is no different. This is something that's common within all languages. And I'm pointing that out because we're dealing with something that is thousands of years old right here. And we see the same thing. So we see Hotep here and we see Hotep up here. All right. The same word. But anyway, this is Amen-Hotep. So this is being used as someone's name, whereas up here it's being used differently. Same word, but it's being used to mean something different. All right, Hotep Dinasud, an offering.
Yeah, the first one had phonetic complements. Probably for aesthetic reasons, they didn't put it on the second one. They didn't have room, but basically the phonetic complement is gonna be you'll see them with biliterals and triliterals, the multi syllable consonant or multi consonants. So on the first one, the transliteration is a capital HTP, and we see the bread loaf for the T, and then the stool for the P. So you wouldn't write it capital HTP TP. It's basically just complementing the sign before it.
Okay. Yes, that's a good point to make. And like you said, on the second one, you don't see the complements there. All right.
So here,
I'm sorry, go ahead.
I was just going to add on, we see another example of phonetic complement right above him at the beginning of his name, Amen-Hotep. The first sign will give us the transliteration M-N, and then the water ripple underneath it will give us another N. So we wouldn't write it M-N-N. It's just M-N for men. And then the second water ripple is complementing the biliteral in front of it.
Yes, excellent. And also, I want to point out on that note, there are people who believe, just like there are people who falsely believe that the Session Meta-Netra has not been deciphered. There are also people who believe, and some of these beliefs are kind of shared among those who believe it's not deciphered, that the Session Meta-Netra is so mysterious that the ancient Remich or the Egyptians were writing with these pictorial glyphs to keep things away from people, but if once you understand, phonetic complements, you understand more about the writing system and the language itself, especially with the grammar, you'll understand that the scribes or the Remich did almost everything. They almost bent over backwards to tell you what it means. So, for example, this word here, let's go here. This sign right here is called, the sign itself is called Newt, and it means a city, village, or a occupied location of a gathering of people, city, or village, or town. And we call this a determinative because this helps determine what the word means that it comes to the end of. So it's at the end of a word. Now, in the row one starts it off. And I also I want to point this out too. When you're dealing, let me go back to the full picture. All right, so when you're dealing with text like this, when you see several rows, like I said, there are 11 rows here. Now, these lines that you see here above and below the glyphs, they're used to separate the different glyphs to make it aesthetically pleasing. And they will call these bands. So these would be, there are 11 bands. We say rows, but they're like 11 bands that are created on this statue to convey this overall message. Now, these bands or these lines, they don't separate sentences. Okay, because a lot of people, when they first start out, they make that mistake of assuming that because this is a row and you come to the end of a row, then therefore it must be the end of a sentence or the end of a word. And that is far from the truth. All right, these are just separating for aesthetic purposes to make it, keep it in order and keep it neat. And the reason why I bring that up is because now when I go back to the first row, at the end of the first row, you can see the beginning of a word. This glyph here, referred to as a game board glyph, and then the water ripple beneath it begins the word men, and then it continues into row 2 at the beginning of row 2. Remember, we're going from right to left, so the beginning is over here. And you have nefer, and then you have 2 determinatives. So this phrase together is men nefer, and this is why it's written in transliteration all right here. So you have men nefer, which is a location, which is a city that most people know as Memphis. Okay, everyone should be familiar with that location, Memphis, Egypt. We got Memphis, Tennessee in the United States, but Memphis, Egypt, anciently known as Men Nefer. All right, and so this is letting you know this is a toponym. Okay, toponym, which is a place name. So this is a location. So if I'm bringing all of this up because in this writing system, so much is revealed to you. Okay, so there wasn't an agenda of hiding from you anything. Like I said, the scribes bent over backwards to reveal what's what. We wouldn't have determinatives if that wasn't the case, and we wouldn't have phonetic complements if that wasn't the case. Just to distinguish between a glyph being used for one set of consonants and another, like a single glyph can be used to represent, I don't have one on the screen to show an example, but I'll just let you know, say so. Like, for example, there is a glyph of the chisel. I forget the Gardner code specifically, but there's a chisel glyph, and that single glyph can represent two consonants, either an A or B, which is not really an A, but for transliteration purposes, the A and the B, or it could represent the two consonants M and R, or the transliterated consonants M and R. So it could be ab or it could be mer. And in order for us to know which one does that particular glyph represent in a particular word, there's a phonetic complement. So if the chisel glyph is complemented with the open mouth, which represents the R, then we know that that glyph is representing the two consonants MR. If it's complemented by the foot, the leg and foot, I'm trying to see if I have one right here. If it's complemented with this, then we know that which stands for the single consonant B, as in boy. Then I know that that chisel glyph represents AB. Okay, and remember, I'm saying this because, again, the scribes did everything possible to reveal to you and to clarify things. All right, so that should dispel the belief that the Sesh Meta Nature is this hidden, secretive, I want to keep it from you, conspiracy writing system. All right, so I just wanted to point that out.
Yeah, just to add on that too is the fact that the writings were found in walls everywhere. It was in visible places and all of that. So that wouldn't even make sense if it was trying to be secretive.
Yes, that's another good point, Dua. So, all right, so this is row 2, and for time's sake, we're not gonna break down every single glyph. So we're just providing the rows for clarity and reproduce the glyphs here. All right. So this row is Min Nefer, Imi Ra, Perwi. So you have Imi Ra, Ni, or in per, Imi Ra, Perwi, in or Ni, and then we have Hedge, Nebu. Then we have Amen-Hotep, and then Jet F, E and E. A lot of times you'll see us say E-T-M Hotep. When we say in the beginning of our shows, we say E-T-M Hotep, which means welcome and peace. So here you'll see this is what that word is. So we have E, this is the past tense. Now, E and E, I have come. Instead of I'm saying welcome, I'm saying I have come. And then we say Ker, Ek, and then Neb, and then we have Wa Peker. And here you see this determinative here. And like I told you over here, this represents a toponym. This is helping you to determine that this particular word is dealing with the toponym, a place name, a name of a location that people can live, a village or a town. All right. So this right here is a determinative that lets you know that these glyphs here are talking about a location. So this location is called We Peker or Wa Peker. All right. So again, there was so much to be, so many attempts or so much effort was put into revealing what was going on, or what, for clarification, for understanding. All right. So that's row 2. And we're going to go over the translations afterwards. And here's row 3. And for time's sake, I'm not going to read every single row, but I'll show it. And at your own time, those who watch the video, you can come back to the archive and pause it and then work on it yourself. Look at it, examine it, come up with your own, go through the steps that we mentioned, steps 1 through 4, and work it out yourself, and then check it against what we have. And by chance, if you find us in error, by all means, bring it to our attention, inside of our Facebook group, Seshu Mani Meta Nature. So here's the 3rd row. You can see the owl here on the side. Now on the statue kind of bends. So this angle is a little off as far as the picture being taken from directly in front of it. But it's the owl there. You see the twisted flax there, the man with the hand raised, the 3 strokes, etc. So you can see how everything corresponds. All right. And we can go on to row 4. Same thing. We have the folded cloth here, the lasso here, the vulture, the pool, diagonal lines, the man with both hands raised, 3 Nefer symbols or signs or glyphs, water ripple, etc. You can look at it and go through. Now, I will pause here, and if you notice, now, let me go back to the first row here. The first row, as we've been saying all along, that this is a very common formula, Hotep di Nasu. And as I mentioned earlier, you may see it arranged slightly different. We may see this conical loaf after the Hotep and then the bread loaf and the stool, which are all for the word Hotep, complement each other. But let's go back to the very start. When Tonica was reading a Hotep di Nasu. If you look here, you'll see exactly what I'm talking about. The conical loaf is now after. All right, and you don't see the phonetic complements for the Hotep, but you see the phonetic complement for the Nisut with the T. So Nisut. So Hotep di Nisut. And then you have this form of the word Wasir or Osiris as opposed to the seated man. The seated man is missing because on the other one, the eye is up here, and then you have the tall throne and then the seated man next to the tall throne. So this is why you may hear us say you have to be flexible. You have to be flexible because there are different, slightly different ways that you can write the same word. All right. And in time, you just get used to this. But I bring attention back here because in this Hotep di Nasu, this is a standard Hotep di Nasu. This is pretty much generic. This is how you'll see a lot of them. But in some of them, you'll see more items, more things listed, and sometimes you'll see less. But this is pretty much an average offering formula that you'll see, and this is why we use it at the beginning of our hangouts. So it's basically a standard list of things that you'll see. So I'm bringing this up because I want you to see if you recognize some of the same things. So we have DF Peret Keru Tihinket Ka'apet Sesh Minchet, which is this line right here. All right, so I'm never go back where we were. But remember, it starts off Hotep di Nasu with Seer, and then we have an epithet, and you have Netra Ah, just like how you saw in the first one. Okay, we were at row 4. Okay, so now we're at row 4. So you can see this right here should look familiar. Peret Cheru. We have T Henchet, and you have this Peret Cheru T Henket. Then you have oxen or steak, which is Chau. Then you have fowl, or what we would say today, chicken. So you got steak and chicken. Apedu. And then likewise in the first one, you have Mekhet, which is linen. Now, unlike the first one, you have Senecher, and then also you have Merhet, and then libation or Kabehu, which is cool water or libation, refreshments. And then also you have Irep, which is wine. So now you see a long list. So you have, an offering. Now you have bread, beer, steak, chicken, some nice clothes, some nice jeans and stuff. Then you have some good incense. You're burning your frankincense and myrrh. And then you have your oil. Then you have some cool water, cool refreshments, and then you got your wine. A glass of wine. I'm only saying it that way because this is how we would identify these things today. All right. So anyway, to keep going to row 5. Anybody else want to comment about the row? Like I said, for time's sake, I'm not going to break down everything in the rows. But if anybody else have any comments about any of the rows on the panel, by all means. Okay, I'll take that as a no. So, so quickly, you can see the relief. It's hard to see because of the bend of the statue, but you can see it over here, and you can see where it ends with this glyph here, and then the hand. These two here, you can see at the end and the folded cloth here. All right. So that's the reproduction of that particular row. So here, the list of items continue. You know, we have iritet, which is the word for milk. Then we have warhit here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. These 7 glyphs right here spell warhit. Then you have tepi mejet, which is all these glyphs here. And we'll go over the meanings afterwards. Then we have M, the owl here. You see the owl up here. Folded cloth, folded cloth. So this safekhu, which is here, which is from the folded cloth to these 3 strokes underneath this rope. That spells one word, safekhu. And then it continues. You can see the standard, the seated, bearded man or deity, etc. Last row that we have prepared. Now there's 11 rows, but we only have 6 for tonight's hangout. So you see the quail chick on the bend, all the way to the water ripple, the pool, and then what they call a half open. All right, what's referred to as a half open right there. So it begins with the quail chick and ends with over here. All right, so I just leave that for there for a second. And so here are all the rows and the transliterations all together. So row 1 through 6, and these are the transliterations for each row. And now for the translation, Sonatonica, if you can read translation for everyone.
All right. Okay. I hear your echo. All right. Okay, I'll go ahead and read. An offering the king gives Osiris, Nefer, Onofris, the great divinity who dwells in Abydos, the royal scribe, overseer of the estate of Menefer, overseer of the houses of silver and gold, Amen-Hotep. He says, I come before you, Lord of the district of Peker, to invocate. I rejoice for your car every day. I give to you praises, exalt you, pay honors to the beauty of your face. I give to you voice offerings of bread, beer, ox, fowl, linen, incense, oil, libation, wine, milk, ointment with fine oil from offerings of the divine messenger. Receive wrappings in jubilation of the Wag festival with green linen and red linen. Aboard the sacred bark of Osiris.
All right, excellent. So that's the yeah, I'm hearing the echo as well, slight echo. But yeah, that's the translation for rows 1 through 6, and then obviously we would continue, and you would have more context to work with as well. But one thing I want to point out is that along with the stress on method, proper method, those 4 steps that we went over earlier, this also will or should encourage everyone to dive deeper, to investigate further. So, for example, in reading this, once you've done your transliteration and translation, then there are a couple of things that you may want to look into. Like, for example, let's see, where are we here? Like, for example, this line here where it says, receive wrappings in jubilation of the Wag festival. You know, you may ask the question, well, what is the Wag festival? You know, what is the festival? What took place during the festival? Where did it take place? Was it a national festival that took place all over Kemet? Was it in a specific location? And what was done? And what is it for? And what does green and red linen have to do with it? You know, if anything. You know, so once you translate it, then you discover things that you may be a little bit more inquisitive about, and you have to look these these up. And then it finishes off as far as row 6 goes. I bore the sacred bark of Osiris or Wasir. So you may ask, well, what is the bark of Wasir? You know, because a lot of times you may have already learned and know that that Ra travels in a solar bark, a night boat and day boat called the Menjet. and Meskenet. So we have the day boat and the night boat of Ra. But what about this boat of Wasir? So these are things that you may want to look further into and investigate. So not only do you transliterate and translate text to learn the language, because these offer good exercises to learn the language, but the goal of learning the language is something that we stress all the time among the Seshu, is that as we put in the beginning as our purpose, is that we're trying to have a conversation with the ancestors. All right, not a literal conversation as if someone's standing in front of you talking to you, but in all of the plethora of documentation that's left behind by the ancient Egyptians or the Remech, we're trying to have a meeting of the minds with the genius of the people in ancient times. And in order to do that, we have to learn the language, because communication is an understanding of language. Like if you didn't understand English, then everything I'm saying to you wouldn't even make sense. You'll just be hearing sounds come out my mouth, and there would be no sending or receiving of a message. I'll be sending something, but you won't be receiving it the way that I intended it to be received. So we have to have a common ground. So by you understanding English and my understanding of English, I can convey messages to you. So the only way that the ancestors can convey or communicate to us is by way of a common knowledge or common comprehension of the language. Since they didn't speak English, since they didn't write any script that represents the English language, we have to learn their language. Their language is called Rani Kemet. So therefore, we have to learn the language to have a dialogue with the ancestors. So when you hear the phrase, let the ancestors speak, we're saying, let the ancestors speak. They're saying, well, let the other people understand. Let you understand. So in order for them to speak and for us to understand, we have to have the language in common. All right. So, and in doing so, that's what we do. But then you take it further, because the whole goal is to identify with the genius, to identify with the culture, with what's going on, why things were done, what made everything so great. We already recognize Kemet as being a great civilization that's contributed so much to the world. This is why we say so much to the world, whether realized or not, or whether admitted or not, because you have eras of time, even still to this very day, people will try to deny the greatness of Kemet. Or they may overdo it and romanticize Kemet, which will turn people off and in turn try to downplay Kemet. So you got both things going on. But in either case, the point is to let the ancestors speak, for us to understand, and for us to tap in to the genius of the people that occupied the Nile Valley. All right. So, and in doing so, you would look up things after you gain knowledge of the language. Now you have to probe into the culture, the traditions itself. And then what people are really talking about when they say secretive, or they feel that there's a conspiracy to conceal things from people by using this beautiful writing system called Sesh Middle Nature, what they're really talking about is nothing different than how we deal with hard sciences today. So, for example, a person, let's just take a very scientific field of what's a good one to use? Let's just take a lawyer and an attorney or a lawyer. An attorney or a lawyer will know English, speak English, but while they're learning law and while they're practicing law in the courtroom, they may use English terms that we are familiar with hearing, but they may use them in a different way in that environment. So for example, the word person, I always use this as an example, the word person. On a regular, everyday, day-to-day conversation, the word person means, an individual, a human being, etc. Somebody that's walking and talking, breathing, got blood going through their veins, etc., etc. But in a courtroom, a business can become a person. When you sue a business and so on and so forth, it's treated just like a person. It's actually called a person within the legal vernacular within the courtroom. So it's not that it's secret, it's just that it's used differently. So in a lot of initiation houses, initiation systems, there are things that are documented in a very figurative way. And the only way you'll understand the realities behind the figurative language is to be privy of the matching of what's figurative versus what's real. You know, and just an example of that, like on the East Coast, I always give this example: the difference between the mid central United States and east or Chicago and New York. Somebody from Chicago may look at an outfit that you have on or something that you have on, some shoes, and say, "Oh, hey, those shoes are cold. Where you get them from?" And they'll use the word cold to describe that they feel it's nice, that they're attractive. Those shoes are nice. They're attractive. Where you get them from? I'm trying to get some. But on the West Coast, you go to New York, somebody will see those same shoes on the same person and they won't say cold, they'll say hot. Oh man, those shoes are hot. Where you get them from? Now, the word cold and the word hot in and of themselves are opposites. But these two individuals from two different locations, you use these opposite words to describe the exact same thing. So therefore, you have to be within the culture to understand the reality behind that figurative speech that was just said, that metaphor. Those shoes are hot. Doesn't mean that the shoes are on fire or the temperature is hot. It's used as a metaphor that, okay, it's nice. A common metaphor that we always use all the time: I got butterflies in my stomach. Now, we don't literally have butterflies in our stomach, but the metaphor butterflies in your stomach is really a metaphor for the reality of nervousness. So until you're taught that or know that, then you'll be confused. So this is what happens in initiation settings, initiation houses or systems, where you're taught the figurative expression as well as the reality behind it. And it's because of this that people will believe and assume that the language itself is some kind of mysterious, secretive writing system, I should say. The writing system is secretive. You know, so I just want to point that out. That's a big difference, and I hope people understand and follow what I just said. You know, but anybody else have any comments or anything?
I'm gonna say Sedrum E.
Yeah, I understand. Yep. All right, good. And that's good too. I'm glad, you know, by you saying that, you know, we have to encourage each other and encourage everyone else to start to swap the common words out that we use in English. Like we say Hotep all the time. But to actually start speaking Rani Kemet. And as Sonatoni could point out earlier, the pronunciations that we use today are not meant to be historically accurate, but they are conventional and they're standard for us to use, and it doesn't affect our understanding of what the words mean. So whether I pronounce the word Hotep as Hotep, or I could say Hetep, I could say Hutip, or whatever, once I see it, matter of fact, let me go back to it. If I'm looking at this, I know that this word means offering. Now, how you pronounce it, you can botch up the pronunciation. You could say Hutip, Hotep, Hetep, whatever you want to pronounce it. It doesn't affect the meaning, because I'm looking at how it's spelled. And we do this today. Like, for example, the brother who actually donated this picture, his name, his Facebook name, I'm sure if I try to pronounce it right now without looking at it, I will botch it up. But whatever it means, it's going to mean what it means, whether I mess up the pronunciation or not. You see? So I'm saying that to say that we need to start actually practicing utilizing Rodney Kemet. This is something that Dr. Raketi Amen has been pushing for a long time. And she's written a book called Majat Wafa, which is a conversation and phrase book to get everybody started. You know, with the knowledge that we know that the historical accurate pronunciations are forthcoming. because there's a huge project underway right now by African scholars, African linguists, and those of us who are assisting and helping out all we can with them in that project, that it's going to take some time, but the goal is to recover the accurate historical pronunciations of these words. All right. And that's being done right now. It's being done in a very scientific and systematic way. So it's going to take some time. It's not some haphazard, guesswork. This is done, very scientifically using the historical comparative method. All right. Which is an entire study and course in and of itself. All right. But yeah, that's good. So Sajami is I understand. Yeah, so I understand. That's good. Anything else? Let me make sure I'm not missing any slides after the translation. No, I'm not. Well, let me mention this while the slide is up. So again, for those who want to learn the foundation information that everyone needs, you can't skip over the foundation information. You can't build a house on a weak foundation. You can't build anything on no foundation. You can try to build a house on a weak foundation, but what do they say? It's destined to fall. So, we want to encourage people not to do that. And we've seen people do that, and they end up stumbling as regards to the language and everything. So if you want to learn the writing system, Sesh-Medu-Neter, or the language Rani Kemet, we offer on the website meduneter.com, which is mdw-ntr.com, a 12-week beginner's course. The course in all is only 24 hours, but we meet once a week for 2 hours. So it's 12 weeks. 12 times 2 is 24. So it's 24 hours in total. You will know how to transliterate and translate Sesh-Medu-Neter, the hieroglyphic writing system. But we break it out into 2 hours a week for 12 weeks. All right. And along with the study course, what complements it is the book, A Beginner's Introduction to Medu-Neter. Now, the book you can also learn on your own. You could just get the book, follow the book from cover to cover, and learn on your own. That's perfectly fine, and you can do that. But it's recommended that you take the study course, or at the very least, get into a study group and walk through the book with others, because it just provides a much better learning environment. All right. Anyone who's a teacher, a substitute teacher, or done teaching in the past will tell you the same thing. The benefits of learning together is outweighs being solo, learning on your own as an individual. All right. So that's available. And also the flashcards are available for the monoliterals. And you see the word alphabet is in quotes because, we get the word alphabet from the Greek's alpha beta. Those are the two characters in the Greek language, but it's referring to the characters of the English alphabet because those are purely phonetic characters. And so what will be the closest equivalent in ancient Egypt or ancient Kemet would be what we call today the monoliterals. So there are 25 cards representing 25 monoliterals from the vulture to the cobra. All right. And there's cards to help you memorize. And these cards will have you memorizing the monoliterals within a week if you spend a little bit of time with the cards. So on one side you have the sign or the symbol or the glyph, and the other side you have all the information about it. So this one you have the vulture, the Gardner code, G1, the two transliteration systems. We only spoke about one. It was manual decodage, which is case sensitive. So this capital A in the other transliteration system would be what we call a diacritic 3. It looks like a 3, but it's not. We just call it a diacritic 3. So these are the same, representing the same glyph, two different transliteration systems. And on that note, there's been a question by those who believe that the Sesh-Medu-Neter has not been deciphered. And the question was asked, how can a bird, such as a vulture, become the letter A? And, it's not that the bird becomes the letter A. it never becomes A. The bird stays the bird. It's just that we transliterate this glyph from this writing system over into the Latin orthography or Latin writing system that we use for English, and we represent this vulture with the letter A. That's it. So it's all in how the question's asked and the understanding. Once that's understood, it has nothing to do with the sound or anything. It's just from one script to another. All right. And I think because of the lack of understanding and the lack of study by people who believe that the language hasn't been deciphered, that they'll come up with those kinds of questions. And those questions really make they're nonsensical once you understand how the writing system works. All right, but I just wanted to kind of touch on that because this is what's on the screen. So we have the vulture transliterated as the A. And likewise, just show you an example that where no one bothers to ask the questions. It's only when we're dealing with these identifiable characters of things that we see in nature. This is a bird. To us, we see this is a bird. I know what that is. It's a bird. May not know exactly which bird, but it's a bird. And it's transliterated as A. When this happens, we have a question about it. But if I were to show you the Arabic letter Ha in the word Allah, the Ha, and then if I were to take it from the Arabic script and transliterate it into the Latin script that we use for English, I would translate that Ha into the letter H in English, in the Latin script. But nobody will question that. Nobody will ask, well, how did this loop looking Ha? I don't have it on the screen to show you, but if you ever look at the word Allah written in Arabic, the last letter is the Ha. You can take any letter, but I'm just using the Ha on the end. It looks like a little loop curve on it on the end. No one asks, how did that curve become the letter H? And the reason why is because that loop Ha in Arabic doesn't resemble an actual tangible object in nature. So our minds never really bother to ask that question, but it's the exact same thing. It's called transliteration. All right. Allah in Arabic, we could spell it out in English, A-L-L-A-H. That's called transliteration. It doesn't say the meaning, because Allah doesn't mean Allah. You can't, you can't say the word means what it is. I can't say a cat means cat, dog means dog, house means house. No, you got to explain it. They say Allah is Elahi, which some people translate as the God or the source. Elahi. That's what it means, but it transliterates as Allah. All right. So anyway, I think that's it. That's all we had. All the slides I had. I'm gonna stop sharing my screen. If y'all have any comments about anything, let's go back up. This is a nice, very nice statue. This is a statue of a scribe of Amen-Hotep, and we saw his name right here, Amen-Hotep. Again, this is in the British Museum. Those who live in the UK, you'll go there. Now, when you go there, you'll be able to stand right in front of the statue, and break it down. If you watch the archive of this and continue on, we only did 6 rows, but you continue with the other 5. And we may post this on the website. Just go ahead and finish it and post it on the website. But you were to go there and break it down like a tour guide. People come standing around you and break it down for the people. Hopefully the brother, I'm not even going to attempt to pronounce his name, but
Senzangakona.
say it again. Say it one more time.
I think it's if I remember it correctly, it's Senzangakona.
Okay, Senzangakona. See, I know the importance of names, and I really cringe at botching up people's names. I'd rather not even pronounce it. But Senzangakona. Yeah, hopefully he's watching now or watch the archives, and he'll be able to take it further, see what we've done, and then take it further. But I want to thank the brother, appreciate it. Dua for all of the pictures. We just chose this one to deal with for tonight. But with that, I'm going to bring this out and stop sharing my screen. And yeah, so we'll open the floor for a few comments. I don't even know if anybody's been commenting in the chat. When I share my screen, I can't see the chat at all. So I'll just
Yeah, I think that's a common position for a scribe, or a common stance.
mm-hmm. Yeah, that's interesting too, because there's two common ones. There's one that you see there where the knees are together and up near the face. And then you have one where the lap is open, have open lap, and you have an open scroll. So you have an active position and an inactive position. Those are the two main positions of those kinds of statues. They're actively writing, or this one is a non-active. So yeah, I'm just so if anybody has comments, hey, feel free. We had 2 hours, but we can spend another 5-10 minutes with some comments. I'm just going to read through the comments on the chat. Make sure we didn't miss anything.
I wanted to touch on something we were talking about a little earlier, where you were saying that we've heard, sometimes we hear that the Sesh Medu Neter is some mystical script or something that no one's ever supposed to really be able to read. It's just crazy because, like you were saying, it feels like they did everything they could to, etch this into stone, and sometimes really, really deep in the stone, to make sure that it survived the time and that we could, somehow pick it up and read it. So I'm just grateful that I came across this group and we work on stuff like this, because they left it here for us to read. So it's no mystery.
Exactly. And there's just a lot of talk about the writing system not being deciphered, which led up to a debate that's not a debate. It's a misnomer to debate, but it's not a debate. But the event in December, which will be an opportunity for more people to learn some of the fundamentals, because see, this is what I meant earlier. When you skip over the fundamentals of something, you open yourself and you run the risk of failing. And the people who will have the belief that the writing system is not deciphered are a perfect example of failure, of people who don't take the time out and study the language and get the basics under their belt before they formulate a conclusion or have an opinion. So you have people who have not done the work that are given these opinions, and these opinions have caught the ears of people, and that's why we see it pretty much in the past month, or a little longer than a month, last month or so, where people are talking about it, and which is fine for us because we deal with the language. It's an opportunity for us to straighten out the misinformation, but you can't really straighten out the misinformation if people still don't want to take the time out to learn. And so I say this to say, because when it comes to language, I think language in and of itself, or communication, is taken for granted. It's not appreciated the way it should be appreciated. And one of the reasons why is because communication is something that we do every day, all day. And when you do something over and over and over and over again, every day, all day, you kind of take it for granted. Those things that are very close to you, that you use all the time, you're numb to it because you use it every day. So unlike other hard sciences, because remember, linguistics is a hard science, but it's something that we use every day, all day, as far as communication, the surface form of it. But unlike the other hard sciences like chemistry, like biogenetics, astrophysics, I can't think, it's a whole bunch of them, but let's just take those three. See, when I say those things, like if I say biogenetics, spatially, our minds look at it as over there, because it's something that I got to get into, something that I got to go study, something that I got to read up on. You know, that's where our mind goes. But when I talk about talking, speaking, reading, that's something that we do all day, every day. So it's like right up on you. You don't have to go and do anything. So because of these things that we take language for granted, and it's to our detriment, because now you got people who feel like they can have an opinion about an ancient language without doing any studies. So you got people who don't know the difference between a writing system and the speech or the spoken language that writing system represents. They're confusing the two, and you can tell they're confusing the two by the statements they make or the questions they ask. You know, which is not a problem as long as they humble themselves enough to learn, because we can straighten all that stuff out. You know, it's no worries. We can straighten it all out. Because like I said, somebody asking, how can a falcon become the letter A? Or how can a vulture become the letter A? Easily, my brother. It's called transliteration. Transliteration is an orthographic endeavor, which simply means that you're bringing, that you're transferring, or you're making a transfer between one script to another script, a source script into a target script. That's it. It could be anything. It's mapping out from one script to another. So the vulture or the falcon is transliterated as an A. That's it. And this transliteration system is something that is standardized or made of convention. It's agreed. That's it. So things like that, I'm just showing one example. There's things like that that are very basic, that if people have the time, take the time out to understand, then, you know, these beliefs will be, could better be eliminated. And then we can spend our time and energy focused on more valid issues that will help expand and broaden the body of knowledge that we have when it comes to the language specifically, or African history in general. So, you know, we just have to keep doing what we're doing, and hopefully people will jump on board. And through us being consistent, you know, people will see, okay, well, this is how, you know, these people over here doing it, you know, because how can you, you know, like, it's like somebody playing basketball, and you're in the middle of playing basketball, you're on the court, you're playing basketball, and you're really playing basketball because you're following the rules of basketball, which is what makes basketball basketball. And then somebody hollers, there's no such thing as playing basketball. You know, a person who's doing that look at you like you're crazy. So, you know, in a way, this is how, you know, well, me, I'll speak for myself. This is how I look at those claims. Meta Nature has not been deciphered. Like, huh? You know, and it's done by people with such Meta Nature names, spelled names, or transliterated names, you know, which is very, very inconsistent. It's a total contradiction. So, you know, I don't know. It seems a bit silly, but at the same time, it gives us an opportunity to teach and for everybody to know. So, you know, on one end, it's welcome. It's like, hey, more people are talking about the language. Sesh Medu Neter, it's a plus. Ancient Egypt or ancient Kemet, so people are focused on the language of it, as opposed to the pyramids lining up to the Orion's belt all the time, or any other commercialized or romanticized aspect of Kemet. Now people can, you know, find out about a little bit more details that they normally probably wouldn't have looked into. Were there any questions or comments from the chat?
So someone asked if we knew how long it took to make a statue. I don't know. I told him I didn't know.
Oh, you broke up. How long did it do what?
How long did it take to make the statue?
Oh. Yeah, I have no idea. I have no idea.
Yeah, and also someone asked us to break down a false door in the British Museum. Like I told him, if you can, grab as many pictures as you can of it and submit them into our Facebook group. If you're not a member, please join. We'll leave the links in the description box.
Yeah, I see Jehudi Ma'at. Oh, I'm gonna say shout out to everyone in the chat. I wasn't able to see it. I usually like to shout out everyone that's in the chat watching. But I see Jehudi Ma'at said that alley-oop has not been deciphered. Right. See, that's what I'm saying. It gets crazy like that. Now we could laugh at that, but I mean at the same time, that's just as funny and silly as the people that are saying that Meta Nature has not been deciphered. You know?
Yeah, I think that's really, it's kind of crazy because when you hear these people talk and they and they don't even know, they mix up the words, the definitions of what a script is, what a letter is, what a sound is, what decipherment is, what transliteration is, and what translation is. And then you realize that I mean, these people they haven't even grasped the basics of their own script and that they use in the language that they speak and write, and you wonder why they would want to tackle something else like the Middle Nature,
Right. Yeah, we just have to overall do better. And like I said, it's an easy fix. It's an easy fix. But the people who are misinformed and maybe innocently misinforming others, some people may be doing it intentionally. Some may be doing it unintentionally. But the misinformation, it's an easy fix, but people have to be willing to learn. They have to be, and this is why we always focus as the Seshu, Ma'ani Meta Nature as a group, we focus on good character because, and we talked about that. We had several hangouts about good character. Good character is at the foundation of everything that an individual can do, because your character dictates how you relate to another human being, a fellow human being, whether it's your sibling, whether it's your parents, whether it's your extended family, or whether it's associates, whether it's a loved one, a mate, et cetera, et cetera. Your character is going to be critical for all those interactions, all those relationships. Student, teacher, being a student, what kind of character? Do you have a character that you can be humble enough in silence and can learn? And then once you learn, you go through the proper methods, then you formulate and expand the knowledge, and you can formulate your conclusions and your opinions. See, people are skipping over all of that. And then they coming up with these conclusions and these beliefs, which are fine. Everyone is entitled to their opinion, but it's the value of the opinion that matters. Anybody could say anything. That's the beauty of living in the United States. Freedom of speech, freedom of creativity. You can say whatever you want to say, but is it true? Does it have value? Is it valid? Does it have merit? Those are different. Now, when you jump into the arena of scholarship, these things are tested. That's one of the purposes of scholarship, to try and test claims. And out of scholarship and out of that, you have true debates and true arguments, not the silly stuff that some people engage in, but true debates and true arguments is to put the claims through the fire and see if it can stand. And then if it stands and it comes out on the other end, then you add it on like a Lego block onto the body of knowledge that we already know. And that's what we call science. All right. So science in itself is a body of knowledge. And then the tools in science allows us to know when something is known. Hence the word science is from the Latin words that mean to know. So how do we know when we know? And it gets into epistemology. And I'm looking at the chat. So yeah.
Oh yes. While you're doing that, I'll just like to remind those people watching to please do share the videos that we will put up. Obviously, like the Divine Words Wednesdays, we've been doing that for I think since the beginning of the year or something like that. And from the very first day, we've been emphasizing the fact that we do this to demonstrate that the Middle Nature has been deciphered, and then the methods that you go about to transliterate and translate. But obviously, it doesn't get to reach a lot of people that might need to learn about this. So please do share the videos whenever you can.
Right. And the thing is that because this is something that is engaging, this is something that takes stamina, this is something that takes a bit of dedication to, we tend to be lazy. We want convenience, we want the fast way, we want the easy way out. That's like a probably a natural human tendency to do that. That's probably that's the bulk of what we use these advancements in technology for, which is to make life quote unquote more comfortable. But it actually appeals to laziness. Like, for example, something as simple as a calculator. Now, a calculator helps us to do a lot more, a lot faster, a lot more math calculations a lot faster. Computers itself, like I'm using a computer. We're on a computer right now. But the side effect of that is an appeal to our laziness. And then when just like any muscle, if you get into an accident and you hurt your leg and your leg has to be in a cast for a very long time, once the cast comes off, you have to go through therapy to rehabilitate your muscles. So imagine our laziness, we're trading our convenience for laziness, and then we cease to exercise certain things, certain cognitive functions and things that we normally would or did in the past. So it's a trend. It becomes part of our conditioning. And so what happens is this kind of work takes dedication, it takes time, it takes patience, and a lot of people don't want to do that, or don't have the time because of the hustle and bustle of everyday living. You got to put food on the table, and you have mouths to feed and lives to live, so it takes time. And then once people go through K through 12 grade school and 4 years of college, and they enter into the corporate world, whatever they do for a living professionally, you're really not thinking about going back to rehash a 4-year something. That's that, like, that wasn't in the memo, so you, this kind of stuff seems boring, so, unless we have some reality TV gossipy type of stuff or some beefs and stuff on here, we're not going to get the numbers, 300 people watching live, or 50,000 viewers within 24 to 48 hours of the archive pulling up, simply because of the nature of what we do versus what we've been conditioned, and that's just it is what it is. So yes, share the videos to those people who you think may be interested in this kind of information. Those people who are saying the Session Meta has not been deciphered, share any of our videos with that, and I say we challenge, I say it like that, challenge, because, we're like, we're right here. We're like, okay, if something that we've done you feel is incorrect, or something that we've done you feel that is just misinformation, because think about it, you can't have it both ways. Like, we can't do what we do if the meta or the writing system has not been deciphered. You can't have both. So obviously what we're doing is a direct opposition of anybody's belief that the writing system has not been deciphered. So that's why I say challenge, because those who have that belief, um, just step it up. I mean, step up to the plate and share your information with us. We'll dialogue and engage in that conversation. So, we know December is supposed to be an event about this subject. So, a lot of information will be known then and everything like that. But, it's kind of, the event as it's being styled is kind of silly, but it's a big plus for people to learn. So the event is going to be, it's nice to have an event where a lot of people's eyes and ears on it, people are focused on it, and people get a chance to learn. Yep. So, with any other questions? Anybody on the in the chat, you need your voice to be heard. You know, we tend to have a habit of opening up our session. We have room. Let's see. You know, Google Hangout has 10, maximum of 10 spots. So let me know real quick. You know, I like participation. I like you know, immediate feedback. You know, that's one thing about interactive classes. Like, you know, I've been teaching a beginner's level of session manager for 5 years now. One and some change, a little over a year online, and then about 4 years face to face with people. You know, I've had classes, and you know, it's really good to be able to interact with people in real time and to discuss things in real time, to field questions, talk about things, for people to bring up things that come to their minds in real time when we talk about it and address it. You know, so I like that. It's very beneficial to me and for other people. You know, I get to understand what it is that you understand. Like if I'm explaining something, I can see the immediate results of that, whether you comprehend what I'm saying, whether, you know, it's understood, or I'm confusing you. Maybe I had to word it a different way. You know, and a lot of times I'll ask a person to explain something I just explained back to me, just so I'll know how they received it, how, you know, if they get it. And that's helped out a lot. A lot of people like that, you know, to be able to do that. So so I like participation. So, you know, anytime you all want to join in, let me know. So I take it as a no, because, you know, usually people be, I know if Shesmu was here, Shesmu will pop right on in. I mean, Shesmu will say, yeah, send me the link.
Yeah.
But I know it's late. We've been going for 2 hours already, so I guess it's just a sign for us to close it out. But you know, I'm MC Iron Lung, and sleep is for the weak. So it's 12:17. We can go to a 12:30. So we have 13 more minutes. So anybody want to come on in, let me know. We'll stop there at a nice bottom of the hour, 12:30. And just in case, I notice there's a delay from the chat between what I'm saying. So I put the link inside the chat.
Yeah, a lot of people.
I'm sorry, go
A
ahead.
lot of people. I was just gonna say, I was seeing a lot of people saying they appreciate, you know, our approach to it, and they appreciate the videos, and that's good to hear. We appreciate the support, you know. So that's good to hear. So thanks.
Yeah, definitely. Definitely. And the slow methodical approach, the brother Nasir, or, you know, I tend to kind of stay away from saying brother or sister, because sometimes, but yeah, the approach, it's all about method. You know, we had a show, check out the archive. We had a show dealing with Tep Heseb, or the scientific method in Kemet, where we show this actual scientific method being, you know, used, and you can find it inside of the text, especially mathematical papyri, where you'll see this systematic approach to solving problems, because that's what it is. That's what it's about, solving problems. And if you notice, anyone that has a tendency to be a problem solver from a young age, they're very good, or they welcome linguistics or things like that. If you notice, a lot of linguists, depending on what kind of linguist, because you have different subfields of linguistics itself, but especially in comparative linguistics, a lot of people are either engineers or computer programmers, or some field that deals with problem solving. You know, he said, "Stop that, man." Yeah, Nasir. Yeah, I know, but I actually know of, you know, sisters with Nasir. which, you know, so I didn't want to make that mistake. But yeah, my apologies. Nasir, he's a dude all day. All right, no, that's right. All right, so yeah.
Someone
Sorry,
added.
I think some. Oh,
Oh,
yeah,
go
go
ahead.
ahead, Jim. And I think you
No,
wanted
go
to
ahead.
ask the same thing.
Oh yeah. What is it? Capital H OHBT. He asked if we had any recommendations for a book on historical comparative linguistics.
Oh, yeah. Matter of fact, well, if you are a member of our Facebook group, we've listed some in there before, but I don't have the titles off the top of my head to be able to type right this second. But you know, you can email, or we'll put some of in the links. But yes, there are some recommended. Matter of fact, historical comparative linguistics, there are some basic introduction to linguistic books that should be, you know, looked at first too, because there's, you know, historical comparative linguistics is a very, very technical field. You know, it's on par with biogenetics. Okay, so before someone gets right into biogenetics, you know, you want to have an overview of genetics. You know, so I don't know where you are in your studies in terms of linguistics, but if not, I'm just saying if not, then definitely get an introduction to linguistics first, just so you can get used to the terminology. Like you'll learn, you know, the difference between phonemes versus phones, grapheme versus graphs, and how to notate it, how to write it down. You know, the different scientific ways of writing it down. You learn about the International Phonetic Alphabet, the organization that put it together, and then just communication itself. You know, language itself, and basic linguistics and introductory linguistics will show you the universals of all languages. And a lot of people need that, because people will say one thing about one language and then another thing about another language, but don't understand that languages, period, have some universals going on, you know, especially with the speech and writing system relationships, you know. So I would, you know, I don't, like I said, I don't know where you are in your studies, but if not, I would recommend going through a book dealing with general linguistics first to get that overview, and then go into historical comparative linguistics, because that gets a little more detailed. Not a little, a lot more detailed, because you have to understand sound correspondences, sound laws, why and how languages change, and what are those changes, you know, and the side effects of those changes, language families and things like that. How can we determine a language being a genetic family versus a typological family? And in studying that, you'll see why people, you know, you'll see why Afroasiatic is a non-existent genetic family, regardless of what people who will believe and claim, who don't study linguistics. All right.
Mm-hmm.
And I see Jehudi might ask a question. It's probably our last thing, because I didn't see anybody jump in. And I know it's late. Oh, we did have somebody jump in. We got two people jumping in. All right. Now, you know, if we're jumping in, see, you know what I think it is? This is what I think it is. I think people are timid to jump in because you know, when you jump in, we're going to put you on the spot. You know, we're going to have you decipher some glyphs, recite some stuff, pronounce some things. No, we're not that bad. But yeah, Jehudi Mai said, are there any words that consist of two biliterals? I'm trying to. Oh,
I think we had one in our what we were working on earlier.
yeah. I can tell you.
Did he?
For sure. There are.
Yeah, Abdu.
Yeah, Abju. Mm-hmm.
That's one that I just came to my mind from what we were working on today.
Yep.
We have the biliteral, capital A, B, and then the capital D, W. Abju.
Yep.
The double heels are the Jew, and then the staff or that stick or whatever would be the ab or the chisel, whatever they call that. Oh, go ahead.
No, that's it. You answered the question. That's good. That's it. I just saw another question. He said, why are the female divinities or women shown as white or light skinned? People ask me. Well, one, they're not shown white, and not painted. They weren't painted white, but they do have a lighter color attached to them because of the color scheme of Kemet. You have different color schemes and a limited number of colors to choose from. So they use black. They use a shade of red for men, the remich. Women had a yellowish color. Now, when you do see women that look pale, that people will call white or think white, that is for a certain scene. Like you'll see in the papyrus of Ani, the so-called Peredim Heru of Ani. Yeah, exactly. As in the funerary text of Ani. If you look in that on that particular one, I don't have it ready to pull up. But if you look at it, you're looking at a funeral procession. So it's coming from the residence of the deceased to the tomb site, grave site. And we do this to this very day. But the women are dressed and they look pale because it is symbolisms for mourning. Those are your professional mourners. People who get paid even to this very day. Now, I didn't know this until a couple of years ago, because I've never seen that people, the idea of somebody paying you to cry at a funeral. I just never experienced that in my growing up. I just didn't. People cried for real, but you can actually hire people and pay people to mourn at funerals to this very day. But anyway,
yeah, that is common in Africa as well. It's just a common thing.
Yeah, I did. Yeah, that was news to me, because I just never experienced it. Well, it's not that I've been to a lot of funerals, but so anyway, those professional mourners are depicted that way because of their profession, because of what they've done, what they're doing, and the colors that are associated with that. He said pales. No, not so much pale is associated with the spiritual realm, because remember, if you ever look in the let's say the tomb of Ramses the First or Seti the First or Ramses the Third, or whatever tomb that has the so-called Book of the Gates, the Book of Gates, the Book of the Book of the Amduat, what's in the underworld, all of those scenes are in this quote unquote spiritual realm or in the netherworld, but you don't see everybody pale. So yeah, don't make that mistake as pale being associated with the spiritual realm. No, the paleness of these females' skin is symbolic of their profession. Their hair, they're pulling their hair, they have their hands in certain gestures, they're pulling their hair, and they're making certain body movements that you'll see in different texts. And their skin is pale, and they wear white outfits and things like that. So yeah,
You're right.
It's not associated with the spiritual realm, because see, from there, if I don't say what I just said, then we can go from, okay, it's pale associated with the spiritual realm, and then I can go pseudo on that and say, yeah, and then you're like, oh, so that's where they get Casper from. Okay, Casper the friendly ghost. Okay, this paleness and this ghost, woo, but no, it's not like that at all. It's not like that at all. So but yes, but back to your original question though, women, outside of that pale aspect, women in general are depicted in a yellowish hue. They were depicted in a different hue than the men in general, but obviously you do have certain situations where different colors were used, but there's reasons for all of that. But in general, you have the yellowish hue used for women, and then red issue used for the men.
All right.
All right, so that'll be last, and then, we're going on. I don't want to go too far over, so with that, we can close out. And matter of fact, brother Sean and sister Lisa, if you have anything, any comments, because you all came in, so I'm not gonna put you on the spot about anything. But if you have any comments before we close out.
No, I just want to say Hotep to the family. Appreciate the show. It was a great show. I hope I didn't cut Lisa off. I ain't see her unmute her mic yet, but do out for the show. That's all I get.
All right. Well, I have nothing left to say without keeping you off for another hour or two. So I'm gonna mute my mic and pass it on to Sonatonica to take us out.
No more questions.
I didn't see any. No, I'm trying to cover it. Trying to cover it. He said, "Why we got to tiptoe around the facts that Pharaoh is just." In the outside of the community looking in is hilarious. Always.
We're not tiptoeing. We're just trying to be nice and respectful.
No. I mean, in so many words. I mean, the bottom line is that people who do not study a certain topic should not be the ones with the loudest mouth. I mean, we know that growing up. That's just a basic tenet of social behavior. When you don't know anything, matter of fact, James Brown has a song. I don't know the name of it, but I know part of the lyrics is he says, "You talking loud, but ain't saying nothing." Ain't saying nothing. But anyway, so he has a song. So man, that needs to be a theme, talking loud, but ain't saying nothing. So, you want to avoid that. See, we're trying to help people to avoid that. We see it. It happens. Now people have a right. Like I said, freedom of speech. People can say what they want. It's the value. I can talk to you all about Santa Claus all day long, but the value placed on my conversation be zero, zilch. So if I talk to you all about the Medu Neter, such Medu Neter not being deciphered, that has no value whatsoever, especially if I have a Kemetic name and I'm saying it, or I claim to represent Kemet, or I claim to be teaching Kemet for 15 years, then what am I teaching? Because if the language has not been deciphered, if the writing system has not been deciphered, then where am I getting my information from to pass on to the next man? If I'm cut off from the elders, from what they left behind, then what am I teaching? I'm just making the stuff up. Am I making the stuff up? So, people got to put things in proper perspective, and identify things accurately, So no one can sit there and claim to teach about Kemet, but yet that same person can say that the writing system has not been deciphered, because language is a DNA of culture. Culture is transmitted through the language. So if you cut it off and say it's not been deciphered, which means you're saying we don't know what it means, then why and how, please pray tell, can you teach about the culture? It doesn't match. That's so that goes back to what the brother said. Are you hustling the culture? Or some people may say culture vultures. You know what I'm saying? So these are things we had to consider. So like you said, we don't have to tiptoe around anything. Sarah Sutanseti and young Pharaoh are two people that have not studied the language and have an opinion about it, just like everybody else, which is their right, and it's fine. But their opinion has no value because those two brothers have not studied the language, period. I've personally offered to teach the brother young Pharaoh about the language, take him through the beginner's course for free. Those 2 hours a week for 12 weeks, 24 hours in all. And he declined. So, and you can tell by what people say, whether they've studied or whether they know anything or not, so, it's already known. That's why I say it's not a debate. These two brothers are piggybacking off of Dr. Walter Williams, who he himself, although he's a doctor, though a professor, Professor Walter Williams, and he's gone through the schooling and earned his degree, and he has a lot of respect. I respect him, but on this subject of the language, he falls short. He's the one that made those claims in 1998 that the Seshmetu has not been deciphered, and people have been jumping on that bandwagon. So there's no need to tiptoe around it. Dr. Walter Williams, Sarasun Seti, Young Pharaoh, and anybody else who jumps on that bandwagon, they simply do not know what they're talking about, period. They haven't studied the language. I can have a conversation with them for about 15 minutes and expose the fact that they have not studied the language just by the questions that I can ask based on what they say, based on what comes out of their mouth. So, there's no need to tiptoe around this at all, or whatever. You know what I'm saying? It's just the fact that, matter of fact, we have, Welcome to the Sabayit Dome, where we addressing misinformation that's, kind of permeates and floats out there in the social community, that we'll address. But at the same time, it's no need to, tiptoe, and there's no need to badger at the same time either. We respectfully talk about an issue and not the person. Young Pharaoh, his personal life, what he does, my man's probably, real fun to hang out with and the whole nine, and whatever he does personally is cool. Whatever Sarasun Seti does. Matter of fact, a lot of people love Sarasun Seti for the fact that he can motivate a crowd. He's a very good motivational speaker. He will amp you up, and he does what he does. Dr. Walter Williams, I'm not as familiar with his work outside of his two books that I've happened to read, the Christianity and the Islam books. But likewise with him, no telling what he does outside of that. But to address the issues, that's what we focus on, the issues of the language. Has the Seshmetu been deciphered? Yes or no? So we address that, and we unapologetically address these things, with respect, with with good character. That's why we focus on good character. We have good character enough to be able to address it without getting into the back and forth, crazy silliness that sometimes we've seen, for a long time. You know what I mean? So I don't have to tiptoe around it. It's just what it is, So, and it's an easy fix. I'm telling you, it's an easy fix. Once you understand that never will a falcon become a letter A. A falcon will stay a falcon. It's just that when you transliterate it over into the English, the orthography we use for English, which is the Latin script, that falcon is mapped to a letter A. That's it. Just like any other thing, I could take a Chinese character. You could look at a Chinese newspaper with Chinese script, and if you want to transliterate it over into English or the Latin script that we use for English, you could do that. Arabic, you could do that. Hebrew, you could do that. Why? Hebrew, the alif in Hebrew is mapped to an E or an A. Sometimes you like for the word God, that you translate as God, Elohim. Sometimes you'll see it spelled Elohim. Sometimes you'll see it spelled Alohim. These are transliterations. They're not translations. And there's a difference, so it's just real basic things that people should know that will kind of help and cure the problem of this misinformation that's causing these false claims to be made. It's only a few people that's making, I named 3 people, and there's a few others, but those 3 are mostly known. Walter Williams, Sarasun Seti, and Young Pharaoh. Right now. Walter Williams has been saying it for the longest. He's 1998. Dr. Ricketti Amen addressed him. Ashra Kwesi addressed Professor Walter Williams. You know what I mean? And not to mention the check out the Giap's work, Dr. Theophilo Benga's continued work. And I can go down a list of a lot of different African scholars that would, hear somebody say that and just, kind of pretty much just ignore it. That's pretty much how ridiculous it is. It's like saying water is not wet at this point. So I know I said something and we were going to end, but I see there's other questions or statements being made. Do you have flashcards coming out for biliterals, triliterals? Well, the answer to that is no, not at this time. And I'm not sure if it would be, worthwhile to do that, because biliterals and triliterals, they're both over 100. And, I don't know. There'll be over 100 cards for both. And I don't see it being kind of practical to have 100 cards laying around and things like that. So we'll see. I had to kind of have it make sense. And plus, it may be an app. There's apps out there now that you can use, like even on your cell phone, and kind of have the same flashcard effect for those high number of flashcards. The 25, I did those because they're nice and compact, and you can carry them around, and they're easy. It's a nice good amount. But when you get to the 150, 200 signs or glyphs and things like that, just imagine it's gonna be pretty thick. But I mean, yeah, hey, we may make them. So I'll definitely let everyone know. Definitely. In the meantime, you can make some. Get a 3.5 or 3x5, like those filing cards, and draw them. And that's a big. Just you drawing them will improve your memory of them. Yep. So did I miss any did I miss anything? Any questions? Nope. Okay, see Judy Matt. Sarah. Can't be Sarah, because remember it's not deciphered, so it must be Sarah, right? All right, so I'm gonna pass it on back over to you, Sonette Tonica. Yeah, you gotta close this out before I go on another 30-minute, an hour. I'll keep y'all up all night.
So good. But yeah, I hear echo. All right. So yeah, I'll just close out. Before I close out, I'll just like to say that for those that are watching or will watch and listening to a lot that's been said by people like Steady and Pharaoh. I mean, just remember these people. They will always make they'll always hustle their way out. Make some money whether they learn the middle nature or not. But if you think about it, because we have it's pretty much a 3-month course, like 12 weeks. So by the time you heard these people talk about the middle nature hasn't been deciphered until the debate time, you could have actually gotten very fluent at the language. So that's just food for thought, because you could learn instead of just following people that don't want to learn. As we've seen, Farah has been offered classes by 3 excellent teachers. You pretty much say no because he doesn't want to learn. So he just wants to talk about it and make some money out of it. And you have Steady, who's been, talking about Kemet for, 15 years. I've only learned this for like a year, so, think about that. So, you can actually learn. So stop following these people, stop listening to people who are not, who are not literate in what or competent in the subject that they want to speak about. So people, just get your own, have your own opinions. If you want to learn something, learn from people who talk about it, who actually demonstrate what they have learned. Don't learn from people, or don't get the opinion from people who have actually not demonstrated anything in what they talk about. So that's just food for thought. You can learn it. 3 months by debate time, you could actually get fluent in that. So just think about that. So I'll just go ahead and close out by saying dua for watching, and hopefully we see you also again on Friday where we have our Freestyle Fridays, where we test our skills from what we have learned so far. And then if there's anything that you feel that was in error, you can always let us know from the group page. We have a group page, Seshuma Animedunecha. So just join if you're not a member already. And there's a lot to learn there. There's a lot of people in there that are very competent in different aspects of the language. So that's a lot of fun and beneficial as well. And if you're interested in learning, check out the website, www.medunecha.com. That's MDW-NTR.com. And you can get all the information that you need for the classes, for the books and all that. So with that, I'll just like to say, get an efe, which is good night for those who are in a different time zone. If it's morning, I'll say Beka Nefe, and go in peace. Amen-Hotep.